Hello everyone, sorry I'm not with you this weekend. In lieu of our Dvar Halacha, I'd like to share with you something that we've been dealing with in the last few days, and I'm going to talk about it in reference to Shabbos, and that is, can you drink water on Shabbos morning before you make Kiddush during davening? We'll leave out of this discussion, can you drink water in shul in general, and we'll also leave out the times during davening that you can't drink because it will be a hefsek, like in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, between Birkos Kriyat Shema, during Psukei de Zimra and whatnot. Just talk about, can you drink water on Shabbos morning before you make Kiddush? Because if you have to make Kiddush, you have to eat. You can't eat before davening, and therefore that's out of the question. So therefore, during the course of Shachris and Musaf, can you drink water until you make Kiddush following Shachris and Musaf? The answer, in my opinion, is yes, because of four considerations. Number one, according to the Rambam, you're allowed to drink water before Kiddush. The Rambam talks about the prohibition to eat or drink before Kiddush Friday night, as well as before Havdalah, and then adds the words, V'lishtot hamayim mutar, but you're allowed to drink water. The Maggid Mishnah says, According to the Rambam, water is allowed Friday night, Shabbos morning, as well as before Havdalah. The Rashba disagrees. So Kiddush is different. You're not allowed to drink or eat anything until you make Kiddush. So from the time you can make Kiddush on Shabbos morning, namely from the time you daven Shachris and you're allowed to eat, you're not allowed to eat or drink anything, including water, until you make Kiddush. And this lahalacha, the Shulchan Aruch paskins l'chumra, like the Rashba. Sulitom klum kodem sheikadesh afilu mayim. However, consideration number one is the Rambam that says that you're allowed to drink water before Kiddush. Consideration number two, are you allowed to eat before making Kiddush on a Shabbos morning? That's the way the Rambam paskins. And he adds, so from this perspective, after Shachris, you're not going to eat or drink anything, except for water, according to the Rambam, until you make Kiddush. The Raavad disagrees. Are you out of your mind? If you're coming out with this conclusion out of your own mind, this is the worst svara I've ever heard in my life. Friday night, you already made Kiddush. You said everything I'm about to eat this next 25 hours is in honor of Shabbos. And therefore, he says, at the end of the day, you're allowed to eat Shabbos morning before you make Kiddush. Says Rabbeinu David, one of the rare Rishonim that we actually have is Perish of Masechet Psachim. There's no prohibition of eating light stacks like fruit and other such shahakals before Kiddush during the day. The Kiddush of Shabbos morning is to make the Shabbos day meal in honor of Shabbos, starting out with wine. So until you eat that meal, you can eat with. And therefore he says, the fact that the Rambam said, Shasur, ain't no klum. So consideration number two is, maybe the Raavad is correct against the Rambam, that you're allowed to eat and drink before Kiddush on Shabbos morning. Friday night not, but Shabbos morning, yes. And again, even though l'halacha, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, shelo yitom kodem lo klum kemo b'kiddush halayla, that Shabbos morning is just like Friday night, no eating or drinking before Kiddush. The Magen Avram says, nirali b'kiddush halayla, that indeed, if you expect to have wine, wait till midnight. If you don't have wine handy, you don't have to wait. And you can definitely rely on them when you have no choice. So Friday night, wait for the wine till midnight. But Shabbos morning, you don't have to wait at all because you have that Raavad to rely on. Consideration number three, the time for Kiddush start the minute you're allowed to eat, which means after Shachris, or perhaps the time of Kiddush starts after you finish Shachris, Kriyas HaTorah, and Musaf. After all, before Musaf on a Shabbos morning, even though you're allowed to eat, you're not allowed to eat too much. The Shulchan Aruch paskins, mutar nitom kodem tfilat musafin, dahainu achilat perot, o afilu pat mu'at, you're allowed to eat before Musaf some fruit or a little bit of bread, ve'afilu te'ima sheyesh ba lisod halev, enough to make you a little satiated, aval sa'uda asur, but a real sa'uda where you're absolutely forbidden before Musaf. From this perspective, maybe the time for Kiddush is only when you can eat freely after Musaf, and not the time that you can eat, but not too much, which is before Musaf. Biur Halacha says that if for medical reasons you have to eat before davening, then Pashut shetzarich lekadesh mitchila. Rav Moshe Feinstein says he doesn't really understand this Biur Halacha. The ulai lo tiknu Rabbanan lekadesh ela kol ela keshehu zman seuda lakol. Maybe the takana of Kiddush that our sages said was only when people can eat, which is after Shachris and Musaf, not the rare person that has to eat before davening for medical purposes. There was no takana to make Kiddush then. It's like saying there's a Kiddush on Yom Kippur. There's no Kiddush on Yom Kippur. You're supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. If there's a rare case where you're not allowed to fast for medical reasons, you don't make Kiddush. Same thing Shabbos morning. People should daven Shachris, Musaf, and then, and only then, is the time of Kiddush begin, not prior. But, says Rav Moshe Feinstein, I throw off my hands. Why? Al kol panim l'ma'asek v'haraza kain v'yesh l'kadesh tchila. What am I going to do? The Chafetz Chaim paskin what he did. So what he throws up his hands for, Rav Ovadia Yosef says, I'm not throwing up my hands. And Garko Bakodesh, he brings many poskim that say, I quote his words, Shebichlal l'titnu chachamim l'kadesh, ela dafka achar tfilat shacharit kederech rov ha'olam shesoadim et libam achar tfilah. At the end of the day, Kiddush, the obligation of Kiddush Shabbos morning, only begins when people can eat, which is after Musaf. Consideration number 3 is maybe you don't have to make Kiddush because the obligation of Kiddush is only when you can eat as much as you want, which is after Musaf, not after Shachris, when there's still limitations as to how much you're allowed to eat. And finally, number 4, do you make Kiddush if all you need to do is drink water? Rav Moshe Feinstein says that in a case in which someone has to eat before davening, but he doesn't have to eat real McCoy, mizonos, like a piece of cake. He can eat, let's say, lakshin, what's called mizonot mevushalim, that will never become bread. He says in that case, there's 2 sfeikas why you shouldn't make Kiddush. Number 1, maybe it's not Kiddush time yet. It's before Shachris and Musaf. And number 2, maybe you don't have to make Kiddush on things that are shahakos. And therefore, it's better for him not to make Kiddush, because if he does, he's going to be drinking something he shouldn't be drinking before davening, and that's wine. So, to make a long story short, there's 4 considerations why, in my opinion, it's okay to drink water before Kiddush on Shabbos morning. Number 1, the Rambam always allows you to drink water before Kiddush, even though the Shulchan Aruch doesn't paskin that way. Number 2, the Raavad says on Shabbos morning you can eat and drink before Kiddush, even though, again, we don't paskin that way. Number 3, maybe it's not the time for Kiddush till Musaf is over. So at least during Shachris, up until Musaf is over, it's not time for Kiddush. And finally, maybe you don't need Kiddush if all you're going to do is drink. So for those 4 reasons, believe that water is important, if indeed you need it, during davening on Shabbos morning. And therefore, Friday night, I don't believe you can drink water before Kiddush, but Shabbos morning, because of these 4 reasons, I believe that you